Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today on this glorious 31st of October. Happy Halloween for those of you who are celebrating. I hope you're all sitting in your homes in wonderful costumes. The three of us are clearly not in costumes today, but we are very happy that all of you are here. We will give it a couple of more minutes before we start. But for those of you who've been patiently waiting, thank you. I can see a lot of you are already joining and joined. It's wonderful to see all of you here. Clearly, we are talking about a topic that is of utter importance and kind of defines your life here in Berlin. So we're very happy you're here. If you want to go ahead and want to put in the chat box where you are logging in from for this webinar, that will be great. And I will read it out to our special guest today. So just go ahead and put in the chat box. It'll be awesome. So from Uganda, okay. From Afghanistan, hi, Omid, welcome. Hi, Heidi and Dashti and Suhas. So from India and from Uganda, Dashti, I don't know where you're from. Arslan from Iran, wonderful. Hi, Walid. Hi, Dishan from Karnataka. Wonderful. We have a good mix, and we are very happy that all of you are here today. Hi, Kwaku. Hi, Abiha. Kwaku from Ghana, Abiha from Pakistan, Sindhu from Delhi. Great. Happy Diwali, Sindhu, and everyone else from India who's celebrating Diwali today. Too many festivals happening on the same day. So that is kind of cool. All right, I think we will go ahead and get started. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today on this webinar where we're going to be talking about accommodation and the kind of services that we offer while you study with us here at BSBI. So for some of you who are here as audience and who are watching us, you probably have friends here, or if you have friends or relatives here in Berlin, then you know that one of the most challenging things when you're moving here to Berlin is to find a suitable place to stay. Now, it's true that it can be a tad bit challenging, but like most things, and if you've been on our webinar, we always try and find you solutions. And over this webinar, what we're going to do is, and what you will hear time and again, is that researching and planning ahead of time is key, like everything in life, I guess, right? But even for accommodation, it's one thing that you need to keep in mind. We're here today to talk about accommodation, to talk about the services that we offer. And instead of me boring you with the information, I have two very, very special guests who you can see are also on the screen with you, who are going to be sharing their experience and their expertise on how you can do this well. They will share some tips and tricks, some things not to do, some things to do. So I really, really hope that you will get some really good insight with regards to what you have to do even before you get here. I don't know if some of you are already here, but I have no doubt that this is going to be of benefit to you. So here with me today is Neslihan. Nesli, if you can wave, we can read your name, but then that will be great. And we have Marina. Thank you for being here, Marina. I've been saying your name in many, many different ways, even as I've practiced it. So I'm really sorry that I said that, but it all sounds the same. Neslihan has been a part of the student services team here at BSBI for a year. And among other things that she does, she has been supporting students in giving guidance and direction of the best possible ways to find accommodation. She also has established various partnerships with some of the organizations here that offer housing to students. Nesli has actually gone through the experience herself because she left the comforts of her home many, many years ago and has been through the rigmarole of finding a suitable place to stay, both here in Berlin and also in her home country. Nesli is not only a colleague, but she also happens to be my friend. And I have seen her go above and beyond to help students to find a really, really good place to stay. So trust me when I say that you are in very safe hands if you use Nesli's expertise to find yourself some accommodation. So Nesli, thank you so much for being with us here today. I'm very happy that you finally decided to come on this webinar with us.
Thank you
we
so much
also
for
have
having
with us.
me and love this lovely introduction.
Anytime. We also have with us Marina. Marina, for those of you who haven't seen our webinars before, is actually kind of a superstar, but a very like low-key superstar, and I'll tell you why. So she joined BSBI as a student in February 2024 to pursue her master's in digital marketing. She's born and raised in Brazil, and after graduating as a journalist, she's traveled the world and actually lived in 5 different countries. In addition to studying here at BSBI, she's been working as a content creator for the past 5 years and now is getting ready to complete 1 full year here in Berlin. Correct, Marina?
Yes.
It's going to be 1 year, right? Because you moved here in January. Marina is also an influencer on Instagram. And she's quite humble about it, but we all know that she's got a huge fan following, not only in Brazil, but now in Berlin also. So Marina, thank you again for being on this webinar with me. I'm really happy you're here. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to talk about this topic
There's
a lot of questions.
We are very excited that you're here. So audience, what we're going to do is I have a series of questions that probably have gone through your head also. So I'm going to ask, we'll start with Nesli first. It'll be important for you to understand the kind of support that we offer, what to do, what not to do. And then after that, I'm going to move to Marina, who's then going to talk about her experiences of finding a suitable place to stay. If you all have any questions, please go ahead and put it in the chat box, and I will be happy to ask it on your behalf. And then I will also leave an email address that you can write into if you have any questions that you want to ask later. Okay, so starting with you, Nez, can you give us an overview of the support that we offer here at BSBI in terms of accommodation?
Sure. So as an accommodation department, it's a one-person department, by the way, and it's run by me. And so I am trying to establish partnerships all around, all day long, and so that it makes it easier for people to find an accommodation or take benefit of it a little bit, you know. And I try to do this via partnerships, yes, one thing, but also gathering information, providing I don't know, materials, information, and everything. Basically, there's a lot of one-on-one sessions going on as well. So whenever a student comes to the office and asking for accommodation help, I always take the time and we try to find a good place for them. So yeah, I think that's it.
Great. Simple. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think students should know how much, to what extent we help also. And it was important that you do say that. So when you have been helping, and from your experience, what do you think students should consider when choosing their accommodation?
I mean, it would be extremely personal things, like maybe you are okay to share the room, maybe you are not, you want your privacy and such. But in the housing market, for your own benefit, like you are here as a student, you are here coming for the first time to Germany, so you need to carry your residency here as well. So I would say the paperwork is the most important thing here. And of course, safety first, paperwork second. But let's imagine a scenario, the safety is already provided, then I would say paperwork. You need this paper to like register yourself in the city hall to complete your paperwork, to carry your residency here, opening your bank account, getting your health insurance and so on. Everything is connected to this one. Unfortunately, because of the need of this document, there's a lot of scams on the market as well. So I would say be really, really careful with this. And since you are gonna studying here, I mean, yeah, it's a little bit like a tourist thing. It's 1.5 years of tourism, maybe 4 years of tourism, but still, it's a long time. You have to be safe and happy in your environment. So I would say some place that you are gonna get along with the flatmates, that you are going to be able to relax, that you are going to be able to study, maybe have host some friends over would be the perfect scenario in my book.
Yeah, great. What, according to you, are some of the main challenges that students are facing when looking for an accommodation?
In my experience, from what I saw from the other students, and also my personal experience, is being not familiar with the terminology or how the housing market works in the city. Because like some, yes, there's always student dormitories versus private housing options. This is a global concept. But then if you go to the subsections of it, or if you go deeper, there's layers to it. I think Germany is very particular about this one too. I don't know what Marina thinks about this, but I think it's really like a little bit special. So there's this what was it, flat partnership kind of situation. It's a little bit Germany specific, I would say. And there's, yes, government dormitories, and then there's private dormitories, but they are not calling themselves dormitories with a student residency. There's also a little bit like legal title involved in there. So this stuff can be very confusing, and I think it's important to know what you are going to choose and what you are signing up with, because then it changes. For instance, if I can elaborate on this, if you choose a student residency or dormitory, you might get everything involved in the package, that you are paying one rent and that's the final price. There's no additional cost or whatsoever. But if you are going for the flat companionship, togetherness, or it's a chicken translation at this point, so pardon my interpretation on this, but that's something different. So you might just be paying for the living space, and then you might have to discuss the bills, and they will have to recalculate. There's a lot of layers to it, and it has to be communicated with the main tenant or the landlord. Otherwise, you are in for a bad surprise, I would say.
Yeah, it's not a good surprise. Just to keep it really simple, audience, I think transparency is key. And one of the biggest challenges that students go through sometimes is they get so desperate to find a place that they take whatever comes their way. And please, that's why we are doing this already, so that you can plan ahead. You can already start to do research. Don't just blindly go in without, you might think it is a 20-page contract, but get someone to read it. For me, even when I got my place, the entire contract was in German. So what I did was, it was someone who was working actually in student services along with Neslihan and I. She helps students with visas. And what I did is I told her, listen, can you please read this document and translate it to English for me? I will buy you lunch. So while I buy you lunch, please translate this document for me. And that's really what we did. Over lunch, we went over, just so that I have an idea of what is written. So please don't sign anything without knowing. And I'm sure Marina, as a student, can vouch for it, and we will give her a chance to talk about it soon. But just transparency is super key when it comes to you taking on a place. Yeah. both of you agree with me, ladies? Yes?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. So talking about these challenges, Nez, how does BSBI help students overcome some of these challenges? What's the kind of support that we can give students so that they don't have any bad surprises?
So in terms of this, yeah, I cannot prevent everything, but I'm always there. If you need someone to have a look at your contract, I can have a look. I'm not a lawyer. I don't have a legal background or whatsoever, but I'm happy to have a look and maybe point out some points that you need to discuss, because it can be vague, it can be bad for you, it doesn't work for your advantage, or like maybe you should pay attention to this clause because it might not work well for you, kind of situation that I can do. And unfortunately, we are having some bad situations. Of course, people are signing a contract without knowing what they are signing into, and they are having bad surprises. And I'm trying to gather the information or resources about legal consultations that they can go inside the city in case they find themselves in those situations. So this is something I would say I'm short on, but I'm working on it.
Good, excellent. Marina, this next question is, I mean, you feel free to share if you have any experiences that you've heard of, either you've been through or your friends have been through. But Nez, what are some of the common mistakes that students make when they're searching for accommodation, and how can they avoid them?
The most I've encountered is not putting a proper application, if that makes sense. Like Germans love structure and the paperwork. So once they put an ad, they want you to submit everything in order, very structured and explicit, exactly what they need. So if you don't meet those requirements, and if you don't answer to those questions they are asking you on the application, I've seen many times that the landlord is not even answering, not chasing you down to get the answer to those questions. They just ignore you. And that's a loss from the beginning. You know, it's such a shame situation. And once when they come to me and tell me I applied, but they didn't reply to me, and when I go over their application, I actually can point out you didn't do this, you didn't do this, so they most probably ignored you at this point.
Yeah. Okay, Marina, do you have any anecdotes or any experiences that you or your friends have been through, common mistakes that people make?
I think from very different perspective, in the perspective of coming in as someone that just arrived to the city, doesn't really know the city, the neighborhoods. One thing that I see a lot is the long-term / short-term rental, because me coming to the city, I thought the best thing would be to already find something long-term, because this would give me peace of mind. But you have to adapt a little bit to the city's dynamic. And for somebody who likes things very planned and very correct, maybe you want to get already a place for a year or a year and a half, because you think, oh, my master's is 18 months long, so I better get this place and commit to 18 months. That's not always the best plan, because sometimes you have flatmates that you ended up not getting so along, or you don't like the neighborhood, or it's not the best connection to school, to your work, maybe if you get one, or things like this. So sometimes we think, oh, it's so bad to get a first rental of 2 months, 3 months sometimes, but to the city dynamics, it works. A lot of times it works, so you can have time to experience, to see more of the city, decide the neighborhood, decide, meet more people, even maybe you get like flatmates that you already know in the city after a while. I don't know, more opportunities will show up with time. And if you come in for the first time and commit already with a contract for 1 year, year and a half, it might not be the best option.
So what both of you might be recommending is that maybe find a short-term option, maybe for the first 6 months or whatever, and then move after that. I think I know a lot of students and even staff who do that, who almost every 6 months will pack up and move. And like Marina said, maybe audience, you then get to see other parts of the city. you get to meet new people, but you also become a pro packer because you know that every 6 months you kind of have to move. And so, yeah, probably
Yeah.
works well for some of you. Nez, thank you, Marina. Nez, what are the most popular accommodation options for students who are thinking about coming to study here?
I get this question a lot, and I really don't think, like, pardon me, forgive me if I sound harsh right now, but I don't think it's relevant in Berlin. It's like Berlin is a circular urban plant city, right?
Yeah.
So, and we are right in the middle of that circle. So in whichever direction you live in, you are gonna come to the center. So everything's around, basically. So I would say
Right.
don't choose something that's just close by. And I understand for most of the people, there's this impact of their own culture, what kind of city they lived in. For instance, if you are coming from a city that the underground transportation is not a common thing, and when you come here, you look at the Google Maps on the directions, and it shows you should take underground. Then this can give the impression that it's too far and I should only take something in a walking distance, which is not right in Berlin's case. In fact, what I say, if you find something that you can transport with an underground system, perfect. That's the perfect, because that's the most reliable one. And also, if there's an underground station on that area, that means the population is high enough and you will have many alternatives. But let's say you have to walk to the transportation 20 minutes or take a bus or a tram maybe, then that would be extra consideration. But metro underground is the perfect thing in Berlin. If you see it, jump on it.
Yeah, I agree. I think transportation is key. You might not think it's a big deal, but it really, especially when it's cold and it's snowing and it's raining, a 10-minute walk seems like a 2-hour walk. So, keep some of these things in mind, especially for some of us who come from tropical countries where we're not used to it. I think it's important for you to keep that in mind. And Nestle is absolutely right. I think in Berlin, there's no, when I tell people I take 45 minutes to come to work back home in India, and they're like, 45 minutes, it's like 45 minutes is nothing here. I think sometimes it's not a big deal at all. And it goes by love, and I really enjoy it. Trust me, it's very different from what some of us might be used to. Nez, can you explain the process of booking accommodation? What if students are now, after hearing all of these, they've got their visa? What is the process that they need to follow if they want to book through one of the partners that we have?
So I would say that depends on the company that you want to book from. So it's always best to have a look at their web pages. They always have how it works, how to proceed, or some kind of explanation on their internal processes. But to give a basic information, first thing, of course, the ID. And secondly, they want to see the financial capability so that you are able to pay the rent, that you are not just going to squat to the place. It's for their own security as well. And most of you have this blocked account confirmation. Just put that along with your passport. There's no harm in it, and that would be enough. Some of the dormitories, especially exclusively student residencies, are asking for the matriculation letter as well. And most of the time, those are really good options. And I would say if you are considering one of those platforms, make a temporary booking, like a couple of weeks, maybe a month, until you finish your paperwork here and you get your matriculation letter. Then you can switch to this student residences, which is going to be a cheaper and safer on the long term.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. I know there are quite a few questions that are flowing in for you, but I will hold them to the end. I will give you a little bit of a voice rest. But one last question for you is, what is a piece of advice? I don't want to say one because I know there's a number of, because I've heard you talk to our students, but what's one piece of advice that you would like to leave with our students that are here today and preparing to move here soon?
Yeah, okay. This this is not only for yourself, but do it for me as well, guys. Please don't come without booking anything. Please, 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 please. I'm shattered when I see students coming here with their luggages without booking anything in advance. Like, you are literally homeless for the night. This is unacceptable. And me being me, I cannot stand this. I leave everything and try to help them, but this is really not a good move. You are traveling. Please, like, start making plans. Reach out to me, reach out to school, reach out to your advisor, reach out to students. Go to Facebook and see, like, Google, I don't know, Indians in Berlin, Turkish in Berlin, whatever, and start reading those discussions and get an idea. Additionally, we have this Unibody platform that you can reach out and reach out to our students and get a consultation from them, have a discussion. And please don't come without booking anything. That's the only
Yeah.
thing I will ask for.
I'm going to second what Nestle just said, because I have seen students, you know, in the corridor. We sit on a corridor and we sit at the end of a corridor. And when I hear luggage wheels on that corridor, I'm like, I can't believe someone's actually come here with, and it's happened many, many times. It truly is quite heartbreaking to see it, because it's tough to even find something overnight. Of course, you can check into a hotel or whatever, but then hotels are expensive. And you want to keep that in mind. And hostels, and unless we wouldn't personally recommend it unless we know for sure that it's going to be safe. Nestle started this entire thing talking about safety, and I think we will end her segment of this talking about safety again. For us, your safety is key. Even though we're only responsible for you while you are here on our campus, but it does break us when we know that you don't have a place to stay for the night. So while I start off with Marina, I will put down Nestle's email address. It's accommodation, right? Or is it accommodations? Accommodation. Singular.
Singular. Yeah.
Accommodation@berlinsbi.com. I'm going to put it in the chat box for everybody. You can write in to us and we are happy to help you. Please, I just want to again highlight, Nestle will not find you a place. She's not going to go look for an apartment for you. So when we talk about services, we can provide you with links. We can provide you with different websites of our partners, of other places that Nes might have in her portfolio of different places according to your budget and what you're looking for. But we cannot book a place on your behalf. Okay, so please get that and please understand. I want to make that very clear to you. We will support you as much as you need in terms of advice, but we can't physically do it for you. Okay, thanks so much, Nez. I appreciate all that you have, all that you have shared for us. Really, really, thank you so much. Okay, Marina, I'm so excited because I don't know what you're, at least with Nez, I know what she does. So then I know the kind of advice and stuff that she gives, but I don't know what your experience has been like. But can you start off by sharing your experience of finding accommodation here on your own? And what were some of the challenges that you faced when you first moved here in Jan?
Sure. So this is not the first time that I live in Germany, but it's my first time in Berlin. I didn't know the city itself. I didn't know people here. So I knew a little bit from experiences of other friends in other cities of Germany. There were students that share with me kind of like what is the process, the WG that we say, it's like this shared living style and how things work, how people do it. But I think Berlin is really very different city. The housing market here, it's crazy, but this is like outside of anyone's hand because, you know, Lisbon, other like main capitals are all going through it. So it is very hard independently of budget, independently of like status, visa. It is hard for everyone. I think that's the first thing. I have friends here who have a full-time job, a well-paying job, and they still struggle. So know that like this is not only you. Everyone is struggling with housing market here. So for me, of course, it was not different when I was first coming. As I mentioned it in the beginning, I am a very like I like things well structured. I don't want to, like, when you guys said that some people come without any booking, my heart almost skipped a bit, because I was like, oh my gosh, how can people do this? Because I always want to have things much before prepared and booked and ready, which is something that was already hard, because the bookings here, they kind of happen 1 month before, 15 days before, and this for me was already a first struggle to wait until I was in Brazil at that time, was making this international move with 2 suitcases and thinking that only a few days before I would find a spot. So for me, that was already a little bit uncomfortable. The advice I got from my other German friends was get a place for a couple of weeks, or find what we call Zwischenmiete, like somebody's traveling, so you stay at their house for a few days, and then hop from place to place until you find your own. I mean, that's the general advice. For me, that was I was stressing more than anything, so I was like, no, I don't want to do this. So I used Spot a Home to find a room in a WG. My research was
Sorry, Marina, why don't you tell them what a WG is? Maybe they don't know. And
a WG, it's a shared living house. I think all over the world, students have kind of this culture of living together, but basically maybe share a room, or maybe it's a big house with 5, 6 rooms and each person has their own room. But it's just this idea of living with other people. Doesn't have to be all students, doesn't have to be same age, some gender. It's just sharing house.
Nice.
So that's what I was looking, because of course, budget-wise, this is always going to be cheaper for you to rent a room. I did have a preference of having a room to myself and not sharing the room. That's already like one step to privacy. Close to the subway, because I know the metro system here in Berlin is really good. And I wanted something for at least 6 months, because I was thinking, okay, 6 months is a good time for me to settle and still have those like couple of months to look for a new place if I want to move. There was the possibility of extension. So before I found a Spot a Home and all these other platforms, there was a lot of research into it, a lot of Googling, a lot of reading, a lot of understanding the marketing, understanding the options. So I think this is every student's responsibility, you know, to do this research, to go after the information. Do not wait for BSBI, for the government, for your mom, your dad. No, you're an adult, you're over 18, you need to read and understand this is for your own safety, as you guys mentioned it. So I did a lot of this reading, I found this platform, and then every day it's almost like looking for a job, you know. Every day you look in the platform, you check it out, you start to understand the prices, what is too expensive, what is way too expensive, because it's gonna be expensive anyway. I mean, it's nowadays it's crazy. So you start to understand the dynamic, what is a good offer, what is not a good offer, and what is possible, what some things you just have to. For example, the first house I moved here, it was 4 people and 1 bathroom. So that was a little bit hard, because, you know, in the morning when everybody needs to leave, there was 15 minutes to each and people take showers. That was just something that I had to live with for my first 6 months here, because between the other priorities I had, that was still a good offer for me. So I think the first time, that this would be my advice, like know what is important to you. For example, for me was important close to subway and private room. Do a lot of research and understand, look a lot into these platforms, do comparisons until you kind of have an idea of what is possible, what is not.
Thanks, Marina. I have a question related to what you just said. You said you started research and you've been stressing that that's key. How much in advance did you start this process of looking for an accommodation before you came? So if you came here Jan 2024, how, like last year, when did you start looking and doing all of these things that you did, right?
I think like 3 months before, I kind of wanted to know how it works. Like I started to ask around, I started to Google it, and then I started to get this information of like, oh, maybe you just get it 2 weeks before, 1 week before. So from there I was like, maybe that's too much. And I think my booking I did 2 months before I come.
Okay, yeah. And also I just want to highlight to everyone, if everyone worked like how Marina works in finding accommodation, we won't be doing this webinar. So the point is we're trying to avoid, y'all coming and adding to the stress. We want you to be, to plan and research and be a little bit more organized, knowing that you're starting this new life here. And trust me, it will take off so much of your stress if you already have a place to stay. So if it's for your own good, I've been reading the questions in the chat box and some super interesting questions. And one was, Marina, how early did you start this research? And that's why. So if any of you are planning to come in the next couple of months, you should already be doing your research. But if you're coming early next year, then now is a great time for you to start. And I've put some email addresses that you can get in touch with, but always advisable for you to start doing your own research first, and then you can reach out to us. Marina, what's one thing that you wish someone had told you before you started your accommodation search?
I think the first thing that is more reassuring is to know that everybody is, like I mentioned, everybody is going through it. It's hard for everyone.
Yeah.
So once you accept, like, this is a challenge coming to Berlin, I think this puts you already in the mindset for finding it. Because before I feel like, oh, is it so hard? Why is it so hard? Why it's so expensive? Why there's so much? Why I don't find it so easily and perfect? It takes you a little while for you to kind of accept it, that it is what it is. If you come with the mindset that, like, okay, I'm going to an amazing big city, and that's kind of like what you have to go through to live in a place like this. So let's just get over with it. Let's just do the work. Let's just research and know that you're going to have to accept a few things. Very, very rarely, I would say, that you would find the perfect situation. A nice modern flat, only for you, next to the subway, good budget. Sorry to tell you, doesn't exist anymore.
It's a dream.
It's a dream. I have a friend, she's German, she's born and raised in Berlin. She lives in her flat for, I think, now 4 years. And her boyfriend wanted to get married and live together. And she was like, I cannot give up my flat because I will never find. She was like, either you give up your flat because I will not give up mine. And he also did not want to give his up because this is how hard, even for Germans born and raised with good jobs, good salary, it is very hard. So I think this is the first thing, accept that it's hard, and then come with more positive attitude that this is just what you have to go through.
Yeah, makes complete sense. Okay. Are there any resources or websites that you found helpful during the time that you were researching, and would you be okay to share that with our audience today?
Of course. I mean, it can be pretty overwhelming at the beginning. So also depends on how you like to do research on the internet. Because I know Reddit, for example, a lot of people love to read Reddit. I never use Reddit. That's not for me. But I know it's a source for you to ask others, to understand and hear other stories. Facebook groups are still alive. For my generation, this is like, oh, Facebook is that. But for accommodation, they're still there, they're still working, people are posting, and it's, for me, it was a platform for me to get some information, but there are a lot of scams in there. So I was very skeptical. I was reading it, I was like, this and this. Some flats were too perfect, and then even people underneath will comment, scam, this doesn't exist, don't fall for it. So be very careful with these platforms, Reddit, Facebook, that it's not something registered who is posting there. There's not like a landlord profile or anything. But it's nice to get info, to change with other people. Maybe there is, for example, for Brazilians, there's a women in Brazilian WhatsApp group, and they're very helpful. So I got to this group very early from a Facebook group. They gave me the WhatsApp group, and there you can ask maybe your nationality, some other clusters you can find and make questions. And then the platforms that are BSBI's partners. So Natalie, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's Spot a Home, Housing Anywhere, I only use these two, so I don't remember the others, but there's a list. And those are pretty good for you to do some possible market research, because there's also WG gesucht, which is very used by Germans and foreigners, everyone, to find in these WGs, which is this shared living. And also there is the ImmoScout. But those two, first time coming into the city, I mean, not to be negative, but it's gonna be much harder to find a place there. You need to be applying every day, looking for spots. It needs to be, it's something crazy. I have a friend who hired a bot to send applications for this, because this is how crazy it is. So maybe this is a step for after a few months in the city, maybe after your first year. I don't know. That would be my personal recommendation, but go ahead, check it out and see if you like it. The best for me were these partners, because it's much safer. So you don't have to also see so much, oh, is it a scam? Is it not? How can I trust this person? And you can do a lot of research easily, you know, just seeing how much is this room in this area, how much is in that area, a small flat, a big flat, whatever. Then you can have a better portfolio, I feel.
Yeah, just based on what you said, Marina, which are all really, really good advice. I mean, things that people need to keep in mind. Students, I think it's important, first of all, for you, before you come here, to connect with whoever you know here. If you don't know anyone here, you can get onto our website, and there's something, Nesli had mentioned it, it's called UniBuddy. You can talk to one of our students who are now studying here, and you can say, hey, is there someone who can help me? Is there someone I can talk to? Because I know students have different groups on Telegram and WhatsApp with regards to different types of housing options. So once we know for sure that you've registered with us and you are one of our students, then we can give you a little bit more information with regards to the groups that we have. And second is cross-check whatever documents you are getting. When both Marina and Nesli talked about scams, when we're talking about scams, what we mean is that, for example, someone might write to you and say, listen, we've got this perfect apartment for you. It's happened to me. But thankfully, I cross-checked with someone. That's why I thought I should say it, because I only moved here last year. And they said, pay 4,000 as your deposit, and we will leave the keys outside the building for you with somebody. And I almost paid the 4,000 because I was so desperate. It was a beautiful apartment. They said they lived in Denmark, that they weren't here, but they would give the keys to somebody. And I cross-checked with someone who I was working with, and they're like, no, do not pay the 4,000. So just be careful, because that 4,000 is gone if you pay that money. So just be very, very careful, okay? Sorry, I have people walking outside. So just keep that in mind. Connect and cross-check, two things that you need to do. I'm gonna end with this question for you, Marina, and then we'll take some questions off, and then I will ask you from there, because I want to keep some time to ask from the audience. What's been your experience living in Berlin as a student? Do you have any inside tips for students who are moving here for the first time?
In terms of accommodation or overall?
Just in general, as a student.
It's been great. I mean, I'm surviving through the winter blues. All of my friends are already like, no, the winter, and I'm still surviving the vibe. So I think this is a good sign. I think it's a great city. It's an amazing city, actually, to be honest. It's been so nice this first year, and like I arrived in winter and now it's coming back to winter again, and I feel like, oh, really nice, like full circle of the city, see all the facades of it. I think it has a lot to offer. So whatever type of lifestyle you like, if you like restaurants, if you like cafes, if you like museums, if you like parks, if you like partying, Berlin has it all. So it's really nice to live in a city like this that is very multicultural, that you get around with English. So I really, really enjoy this city. My tip, I think, as I said in the last webinar when I talked more about general student life, is just come with an open heart, because I say this now, but my close friends know, like a few months ago, how much I was like, I can't do this anymore. Berlin is too much. So it takes some time to adapt, to understand. Some days are not the best. Sometimes people on the street are just rude or moody, and then you get rude or moody or something like this. come with an open heart that it's okay. There's a lot of phases to it. You don't have to love it at first sight, but give Berlin a chance.
I agree. Naz, do you agree with everything that she said about Berlin?
Absolutely,
No.
100%. It can be a little bit too much. Yeah, like there are so many weird people. This is the city of freedom, actually. You can be whatever you want to be. And
Yeah.
there are some weird people outside, sure. It's not like everyone, don't get me wrong, but sometimes, you encounter one wrong person and it's enough to ruin your day. And that happens. It's not just Berlin thing, but maybe it's a general thing.
Yeah, I agree with both of you, Marina and Nez. I think Berlin can be overstimulating. What you see on the street, what you see on the trains, it's just too much sometimes. But what I love about the city is there's something for every kind of person. If you're, whatever it is, you will find your kind of people, you will find your kind of activities that are of interest to you. It offers something for everybody. And what I want to tell all of you is sometimes we might come from countries where everything we do as communities, we have our families and we have our friends who help us. Berlin may not necessarily be like that. You need to figure out a lot of it on your own. But if you ask, you will get the help that you need. So my advice to all of you is please ask. If you need something, before you give up on coming here and joining us, ask, and as much as we can, we would love to help and offer you the advice that you need. Okay, just going on. Thank you, Marina and Nez, for being here and for all the information that you all have shared. Just taking some questions here. I'm going to go ahead and ask this question, even though George, who's asked the question, has left. Nez, he's saying, is accommodation, like the price that you pay, is it separate from the water and electricity bills? Do you know?
In
Can you
some
comment on it?
instances, yes. For instance, my flat is like that. So there's a couple of different pricing into the accommodation. There's a living space, just the square meter of this location that you are paying, and then some amenities are included in the bill, which is the building maintenance cost, the garbage, the gardening work, blah blah blah, or the water and heating is almost always included, but not all the time. So this is something else that you need to pay attention. Then adding those costs, it becomes this hot rent or warm rent, that's in German. And then electricity and internet is not included. So you'll have to get a contract on your own name and you have to pay on top of the. So like I mentioned earlier, it's the additional packages that comes into play. Otherwise, yeah, there are some student dormitories that everything is fixed price, everything is included. You pay, I don't know, 500 and that's it, nothing else. Maybe except the radio tax, this is something individual and everyone has to pay. But apart from that, all inclusive.
All include. Okay, someone was asking about, are there small places that are private without roommates that have like maybe their own kitchenette? What's the price range for some of these places?
There's absolutely places like that, 100%, and I think it's becoming more and more popular, especially with the new buildings, because also the German society is getting more individualistic and single. Like literally, German population is suffering from lack of families and kids. That's why they are accepting migrants. But anyways, that's a political discussion. So yeah, the new buildings, especially, there's quite surplus of those studio flats, I would say. But that also depends. If you are gonna rent the place on your own name, yes, you are gonna be subject to those paperwork. Like, how are you gonna sustain yourself? How many days of permit you have in Germany and so on. So that could be a little bit difficult to get into. But alternatively, yes, there's this platforms that people are renting their places to temporary people here, which students are one of those, and you can rent a place via those platforms. But price range, I would say 800. I would start it from 800. Going lower than that would be a little bit more optimistic and niche. But from 800 to 1200, I mean, the sky is the limit at this point. You can get something with a like terrace and then like a sea view, not sea, but the river view and so on. Then you might end up paying 5,000. But
much
I
more.
would put the lower bar on 800.
800. Marina, do you agree? Because I know you've kind of got a space like that. You have your own space. Maybe, I don't know if you have a kitchenette, but do you agree that the range could be anywhere between 800 to 1,000 too?
I think the location will determine a lot on this, and if it's like there's so many variants, right? If it's with the mobile already, if it's cart or VAM, if it comes already with the internet, I think this range is perfect. But if you're wanting to be inside the circle, I would say 1,000 to 1,200. Yeah, would be more. And then if you're like, okay, I would stay outside the ring or something that I have to buy the furniture and things like this, then definitely you can find for a little bit less.
Yeah. So it all depends on what the house comes with and also the location. I think, you know, based on that, it'll fit into the ranges that Nesli talked about. Dashti, really quickly about your registration. I know some of you are asking questions outside of accommodation. If you're not sure whether you're registered or not, you please get in touch with your program advisor. Or if you're okay, you can send me an email at ask@berlinsbi.com, and I can just send me your QID and I can check what's happening with your application. And just your second question is, when we come to Berlin, will you give us accommodation or it's up to yourself? I hope you've understood that it's up to you. We can give you guidance, but it will be up to you to find something. And it's not just, I think it's a Berlin thing, it's a Europe thing. Most universities don't have their own accommodation. You'll have to find your little accommodation space. And I think both the ladies here who are my guests today have given you some sound advice on how you can go ahead and do that. So hopefully you've been listening intently. Is it a good idea to choose accommodation which takes 30 minutes to 1 hour travel time so as to save rent? I think, Marina, you said that was okay, yeah?
I think it's worth it if, as you guys gave a really good point, is because of winter, if you have 30 minutes, it's inside the subway or even the bus. I don't like the bus so much, but you know, if you're inside and it's just 1 or 2 transport, it's perfect. But if you have a lot of changes, like 3 or 4 changes or 20 minutes from this 40, 20 is walking, then rethink. But I think it's totally normal. I say up to 45 minutes, it's close. It's close by.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's super close. I want to know, how much should I budget if I'm coming from West Africa in general? Any comments, either one of you?
In terms
How
of
much should
overall living?
Just accommodation, or yeah.
Let's just stick to accommodation for now, because I think all the others like food and entertainment are all, it's also individualistic, right? It depends how much you want to eat out and go party or, you know, whatever.
Exactly.
But with regards to accommodation, how much do you think average a person should budget?
I think minimum, I would say.
I think in my experience, 600.
Yes, I would say the same, yes.
Okay, 600. Chibuki, Kelvin, I hope that makes sense for you. So 600 for accommodation only, okay, is all we're saying. Everything else is plus. There was a question, Nez, maybe you can answer this from Sindhu. She says that she's planning to relocate with her children after an initial, time that she's studying. She said, which place will be the best and economical in Berlin, where schools for children are also located? And please do note that I will be able to fund, she's going to fund for them. But do you have any recommendations where you know that the school system is good? Do you know? Or is there a website that they can go into that we can send her later, maybe?
Yeah, I'm working on gathering resources for families specifically as well. I have some information by now. So if you send us an email, I can share the links and the companies that's specifically okay to rent to families, because student residencies are not okay to host families because it's not a family-friendly place, honestly.
Right. Yeah.
And in terms of kindergarten, There is a kindergarten in every neighborhood, and it's a mandatory thing in Germany. So there's one in every corner, basically. You just need to, I don't know the system fully because I don't have a kid, of course, but from what I hear, you sign up with the listing, and once they have availability, they invite you to register your kid in the kita. So we call it kita in Germany. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. And the standard is very high, and it's a standard, you know, it's the same everywhere. So I wouldn't be worried about kita situation necessarily. But for the housing thing, reach out to me. And there's also government regulations about kids actually. So you have to keep that in mind. Maybe expand your budget a little bit liberally.
Yeah, I agree with what you just said. Absolutely. There are several questions with budget, which we've already covered, and people asking about registration. Yes, please, if anyone's asking about registration, if you're not sure, if you're already enrolled, please get in touch with your program advisor. George, I have taken note of your name. I will try and track down your program advisor and ask them to respond to you. What I would also suggest, Sindhu, we will try and send you some information with regards to what we just talked about putting together a little portfolio for people who are coming with families, and we'll share that with you. When we talk about the budget, we're talking in euros. We're not talking in dollars or in rupees. We're talking in euros. So it's 600 euros that you need to keep in mind. Okay. Is there any, do you all, can you all, can one of you just repeat some of the websites that people can use in order to look for short-term and long-term stays, if it's possible?
Sure. I would say Spot a Home, Housing Anywhere, Uniplaces, and Erasmusu are our partners, and they are free platforms. So as a landlord, let's say I'm a landlord, I can put my house there, and I can find you through that. So it's a mediator website, so to say. And they are providing really good service in terms of securing the accommodation. Like they are keeping your money secure until you are moving in. So there's little possibility for scams. But of course, the system is never perfect. Just make sure, and they are also providing verification service. So if you go to the ad, you will see this is verified owner, verified landlord, verified ad, whatever. The statement might change, but the idea is the same. So please pay attention to those.
Yeah. Thank you, Naz. Marina, you okay with what? Did you want to add to any of those?
No, I think that's the way I did it. That's the way I recommended.
Yeah. Okay. Really quickly, I'm going to wrap this up. I want to be sensitive to the fact that we said we will be done by 3, and Marina has a class at 4, which we found out earlier this afternoon. What we do recommend, there was a question about what if our visa, we have a place and our visa is cancelled. So is there a refund that do you know, Nez, that happened before?
I cannot guarantee it, but in most cases, yes. But it has to be communicated and looked into by the landlord. So they have to report this and ask for the solution to this.
Yeah, I think what I've heard from students is, and what I do recommend is find a short-term accommodation, maybe for 3 months when you are, or even before you apply for your visa. And then when you're submitting your documents for your visa, maybe show them that you've already booked it. Your chances to get a visa, I believe, is much higher when you have shown that you're serious about your education, you're organized, you found a place to stay. Then the visa officer is like, well, if you have all of this in place, then why wouldn't we give you your visa? Okay, so keep that in mind. But if you don't want to take that risk, then start to do your research. Like Marina said, if you're in the process of applying for your visa and you're waiting for it, you already should be looking for a place so that you're not stuck at the end. Don't do last minute. That's when a lot of our students make mistakes. We want you to be organized and plan ahead. And we really, really hope that a lot of what we've shared today will be of benefit to you. I know there are some specific questions related to scholarships and portfolios. I'm not going to take those questions because they're not related to accommodation. So what I will do is I will get the entire list of questions in a few hours, and I will send you all an email. For some of you who've asked specific questions, I will respond back to you with that. And for some of you, as promised, we will send you some resources that you can look into. Marina and Neslihan, thank you so much for being here today and for offering such sound and honest advice. We really, really appreciate it. You guys have been fantastic. Audience, you've been excellent. There's so many of you who've been here right from exactly 1 hour ago, and you've stayed the entire time with us. And I'm really, really hoping you've taken some tips down. We take it as a compliment that you weren't bored, and you know that you were here, and because it's been great information that they've shared. We're here in order to support you. I've put my email address down. It's ask@berlinsbi.com. Super simple. ask@berlinsbi.com. Write into us, and we would be happy to support you. And we're really, really hoping that we will see all of you on campus very soon. Till then, good luck, and come soon before it gets too cold. It's beautiful right now. Don't listen to Nesli and Marina. It's lovely. It's autumn. It's gray, but it's beautiful.
I'm in t-shirt.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Exactly. Marina thinks otherwise, and so do I. But come, we will make it nice and bright and colorful for you. We look forward to seeing all of you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye. Thanks, Nesli. Thanks, Marina. Bye. Bye.
Thank you.